Pesachim,
Zayin Yud Gimel.
If two groups were eating in the same house, one group may turn in one direction and eat, and the other group may turn in another direction and eat with the kettle between them. When the waiter stands up to mix the wine, he must close his mouth and turn his face until he gets back to his own group. Then he eats. The bride may turn away her face and eat. A woman, during the time she resides in her husband's house, if her husband slaughtered a Pesach on her behalf and her father slaughtered a Pesach on her behalf, she eats from the Pesach of her husband. If she went to spend the first festival in her father's house, if her father slaughtered on her behalf and her husband slaughtered on her behalf, she may eat in whichever place she desires. An orphan for whom guardians slaughtered may eat in whichever place they desire. A slave belonging to two partners may not eat from either of them. One who is half slave and half free may not eat from his masters. One who says to his slave, "Go out and slaughter the Pesach offering for me." If he slaughtered a kid, he may eat of it. If he slaughtered a lamb, he may eat of it. If he slaughtered both a kid and a lamb, he must eat of the first. If he forgot what his master told him, what should he do? Let him slaughter a lamb and a kid and say, "If my master told me to slaughter a kid, let the kid be his and the lamb mine. And if my master told me to slaughter a lamb, let the lamb be his and the kid mine." If his master forgot what he had told him, both go forth to his place of burning, and they are exempt from participating in the second Pesach. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Mishna Gimel, Omer Lebanav. So a guy says to his children, they're busy walking towards Yerushalayim and the Regel, and the children are whining and complaining and saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Okay. And he says, first one to Yerushalayim gets the schus of the Korban Pesach. They all run. Okay, that's how to deal with your kids. Even in the time of the Mishna, I guess they have to find ways to deal with their kids. Okay. As soon as the first one gets his head and the majority of his body through the gate, that's that Zacha Bechelko Umzake es Echavimo. So he's the winner, and he's Mizake his brothers with him. It's amazing that the Mishnah has to tell us this, but I think what the point is over here is that the point really is that he doesn't get the whole thing. That he's mizake echav. That he was the Zarias, but he doesn't earn the whole Pesach, even though his father said Hareni shochet Pesach al misha yale v'kem rishon. So he says you get the Korban Pesach, but he doesn't get the whole Korban Pesach. What he gets is the schus of being the Zarias and getting there first, and he's mizake everyone else in their portion of the Korban.
He only gets a kazayas anyway. It's right.
Well, you can have more than a kazayas. You're just trying to guess. Okay, Yolam nimnin alav, and that's exactly what the next point is. Yolam nimnin alav. You can keep on adding people to your chabura, as long as each participant will get a minimum of a kazayas of edible flesh. Okay?
You can add a participant after they've been registered already. You can keep adding them.
Well, so that's the point. That's what the Mishnah is telling us, is that you can keep on adding registrants, removing registrants as well, up until a certain moment, which the Mishnah is going to tell us now. Okay. Actually, hey, but you can't. Once you've got more, once you see you've got so many participants that if you add any more, then people are going to get less than a kazayas. Then you can't add any more. And if you do, then the people who were there first, they each get their kazayas, and the people who came later have got a problem, and they're going to wind up having to bring a Pesach Sheni. Okay. So your time limit, according to the Tanakhama, is up until the moment the korban is shechted. 1 second before, you can add somebody else into the group. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he says it's even later than that. Well, actually, he says it's until you throw the blood, but until you throw the blood, only as a chumrah. And you can't add. He agrees with the Tanakhama that you can't add anyone after the after the korban has been shechted. But you can withdraw from the chabura if it's before the blood has been thrown. So if you found somebody else's chabura that you want to join on to rather, then you can withdraw from this one even though it's been shechted, says Rabbi Shimon. However, halacha follows the Tanakama that everything is given from the shchita. If you're in this chabura at the time of the shchita, then you're in that chabura and that's it. It's done. Okay. Ha mamne imo acherim bechelko. If somebody, I mean, presumably there's going to be a financial transaction over here. If you get a lot of people together, all clubbing together to buy a korban, and he says, and his friend, he sees a friend over there who hasn't got a korban. He says, "Have you joined on? Come quickly, you're shechting the korban. You come and join with achabura." He's being a nice guy. He wants his friend to come and join, and or not even a friend, just maybe a beggar doesn't have money to pay for a korban pesach. He says, come and join with our chabura. So Rashayim b'nei chabura litain lo es shelo. The rest of the b'nei chabura can say, listen, we didn't want to give up our portion for this. You gave up yours. That's very nice of you, but we're not giving up ours. They're entitled to say it, and they say, okay, here's your portion. You can divide it with your friend. And he eats from his part, and they eat from theirs, and they can split up the chabura. Okay. Mishna Hay. Zav shera'a shtei re'iyos. Now remember the din of a zav. A zav is a guy who sees a flax emission 3 times. Well, I mean, if he sees it once, he's basically like a balkari. If he sees it twice, then he has to wait 7 days and tovel in Mayim Chaim. And if he sees 3 times, then he also has to bring a korban. Okay, that's the zav gadol.
Right.
Okay. All right. Then we have a nida who Minatorah goes to mikvah after 7 days, and you have the zava, who is a woman who has seen blood not during her expected nida period, who also needs to have 5 clean days. She has to count 5 clean days, and then she's and then she can go to mikvah. Was 5 clean days and 7 clean days. She has to count. She has to be clean for 7 days. Okay, so at any rate, these people are all people who are tamei. In their current state, they would not be allowed to eat the korban pesach. And furthermore, if somebody is required to bring a korban in order to become tahor, then they're called the mechusa kippurim until they have brought their korban. And somebody who's mechusa kippurim is not allowed to eat kodshim until they have brought their korban. Okay. Also, if somebody is tamei and they go to mikveh during the day, they're not allowed to eat kodshim until they've had harav shemesh, until the sun has gone down.
Right.
Okay. So now this is all these situations that we're going to have in this Mishnah are people who are going to go to mikveh or tovel in Mayim Chaim on the 14th of Nisan. Okay, so now they'll have gone to mikveh, but they'll be at Tivul Yom on the 14th, and the Mishnah is going to teach us that even though on the 14th, when the korban pesach is brought, they're still at Tivul Yom, and they therefore cannot eat from kodshim. Nonetheless, that night they'll have had harav shemesh, so they'll be able to eat the korban pesach. Okay, so that's what we're going to see in this Mishnah over here. Zav shera'a shtei re'iyos. So you've got a zav who's seen twice. Shachatin alat b'shvi'i. So his 7th day falls out on the 14th, and you're allowed to make him part of the chabura, and you can shech the korban pesach with him in the chabura, and that's fine because that night he'll be tahor and he'll have had harav shemesh and he'll be able to eat. Ra'a shalosh shachatin alat b'shmini shelo. So if he's had 3 emissions, so now he also needs to bring a korban, because he's now a zav gadol. so you can so he can have who Kaldius lo have Avi Adanis korban kaparso. So now even though he hasn't brought his korban for being a zav, right? You can't. Nonetheless, the Gemara says that you can't bring you can't let him be part of the chabura for the Pesach unless he has actually like got an animal, designated it and handed it over to Beis Din and said, listen, I'm bringing my korban for the ziva. I just want to eat the korban Pesach as well. So they say, okay, you can join him as long as we've got security that you're going to bring a korban. Okay, it's a gezerah because he might be posher and not bring his korban for being a zav. Then there's the shomeres yom keneged yom. So this is again the zava, the woman who has bled outside of her time of nida, right? So if it's just one day, then she just has to be shomeres yom keneged yom. After having one clean day, then she's allowed to go to mikveh and be with her husband again. And the same thing with 2 days, right? She just has to keep another day which is clean, and then she can go to mikveh. But if she has 3 consecutive days of bleeding outside of her regular nida period, then she becomes a zava gedola. Okay, so the shemeres yom keneged yom is one of the first 2 cases. So she's only seen in one day. So you can shecht the korban pesach for her on the second day on the presumption that she's going to be tahor that night.
Right.
What if it was 2 days? Then that's fine. On the third day, we presume that if she's already still clean on the third day, you can check the korban pesach for her that day. On the presumption, she'll be able to eat it that night. Zava, that's the zava gedola, who's had 3 consecutive days of blood. Then you have to give her the 7. She's only allowed to eat one on the 8th day. Right, on the ninth night, that is, okay, because we'll presume that she's going to go to mikveh that night and going to be able to eat the korban pesach.
So that and the zava, they may slaughter on her behalf on the 8th day. I didn't see the 9th.
Yes, that's right. The 8th, because the 8th is the 14th, and that night will be the 9th.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. By the way, I just thought of this when we were talking about participating in with the korban pesach. People who can't for some reason eat the korban pesach, what do they do that night? I mean, they eat everything else, or what do they do?
Well, if they can't because they're physically unwell.
No, because let's say someone just they can't because of some of the things we discussed. They can't. They have to wait and participate in the Shani.
If somebody's tamei.
Somebody, yeah. What happens with them?
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it, but Mishna, I would say that matzah they can still eat, and the mitzvah sipur mitzvah, the Haggadah is still a mitzvah.
Right.
So, and maror, why not? You can do everything. Everything that we do nowadays, you can do. You just can't eat the korban pesach.
And they didn't have the afikomen, so that would have been korban pesach. They didn't have that, so.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what do they do? Go out to,
But yeah, even if somebody's tamei, I would imagine that they still have a mitzvah of eating matzah.
Right.
That doesn't change.
Because that mitzvah is separate from the korban pesach.
Ideally, they should be eaten together.
Right.
But what can you do if somebody's tamei when everyone else is tahor and they can't eat the korban pesach? So Mishna, they would have to eat matzah and they would go through the Haggadah like everyone else.
Because of the Pesach korban is not much of a sandwich anyway, so it's not the
right. Again, kazayas is the minimum.
Right. I know. I've been to some houses where they give you this gavaldic, thing over there. It's impossible to eat. Anyway, okay, we are at. Here we go.
Okay. Hey Ches.
I'm sorry.
Hey Ches.
Hey Ches, right. Okay. Sorry, wrong page. Like its procedure on weekdays, so its procedure on Shabbos, except that the Kohanim rinse the temple courtyard without the consent of the sages. Rabbi Yehuda says he would fill a cup with the mixed blood and throw it once upon the altar, but the Chachamim did not agree with him. How did they suspend and flay them? Iron hooks were fixed into the walls and into the pillars on which they suspended and flayed the Pesach. Anyone for whom there was no room to suspend and flay his animal, there were thin, smooth staves there, which he placed upon his shoulder and upon the shoulder of his fellow, and so hung and flayed it. From Eliezer says, if the 14th fell on Shabbos, he placed his hand on his fellow's shoulder, and the hand of his fellow rested upon his shoulder, and thus he suspended and flayed it. He tore it open, removed the sacrificial parts, and put them in a plate and buried them upon the altar. The first group went out and remained on the Temple Mount, the second group in the Kel, and the third group remained where they were. After dark, they went out and roasted their Pesach offerings.
Erevin Vav Aleph.
Oh, this fell out. Why did it fall out? Okay. One who lives together with a Gentile in a single courtyard, or with one who does not accept the laws of Erevin, that person places a restriction upon him. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov says he never restricts unless there are two Jews restricting each other. Rabbi Gamliel said it once happened that a Sadducee lived with us in an alley in Yerushalayim, and Father told us, hurry and carry out all your utensils into the alley before he carries out and restricts you. The Yehuda related this in different terms. Hurry and attend to your needs in the alley before it passes, and he restricts you. The residents of a courtyard, one of whom forgot to participate in the Erev, his house is restricted with regard to carrying in and carrying out to him and to them, but theirs are permitted to him and to them. If they ceded their rights to him, he is permitted, but they are restricted. If they were two, they would restrict each other because no individual can cede rights and acquire rights. Two can cede rights but cannot acquire rights. Okay.
Ala Gimel Yud.
I'm sorry?
Ala Gimel Yud.
There we go. Right. Okay. Why am I missing something here? There we go. Okay. I'm missing something. That's why my stuff fell. All the stuff got mixed up. You said Gimel Yud?
Good.
Gimel Yud and Chala.
Yes. Is that a problem?
It's my head that's not working. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm turning the page the wrong way.
Ah, yes. It's been a while since you've done that.
A few times I've done that, yeah. If one takes leaven from wheaten dough and puts it in a rice dough, if he has the taste of cereal, he is liable to challah. But if not, it is exempt. If so, why did they say tevel renders forbidden any quantity of its own kind, but of a different kind, it imparts flavor? If two women made two calves and they touch each other, even if they are the same kind, they are exempt. And if they belong to one woman of the same kind, they are liable. Of different kinds, they are exempt. Which is one kind like that? Which is one kind with like kind? Wheat does not combine with any except with spelt. Barley combines with all except with wheat, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says the other kinds combine with one another.
Machshirin. Gimel Daled.
You said Yud Dalet?
Gimel Daled.
Oh, Gimel Dalet. That's what I thought. Yeah, no, right. Okay. Regarding one who sprinkles his house with water and then place wheat there, and the wheat was moistened, if it is due to the water, it is included in the law of Baki.
Yes.
You know, I always have trouble with that. I don't know why, but if it is due to the bedrock, it is not included in the law of Baki Yutain. Regarding one who washes his garment in a basin and he placed wheat there and the wheat was moistened, if it is due to the water, it is included in the law of Baki Yutain. But if it's due to the kernels of wheat themselves, it is not included in the law of B'ki Yatain. Regarding one who moistens produce in sand, it is included in the law of B'ki Yatain. And there was an incident with the people of Maxo who would moisten produce in sand, and the Kakaman said to them, if this is what you have been doing, then you have never in your life produced flour in Tahara. Regarding one who moistens produce in dry mud, Reb Shimon says if it contains liquid sufficient to moisten, it is included in B'kein Yatain. But if not, it is not included in the law of, included in B'kein. I don't think, is it necessary to say in the law of?
It is not, you say it's not bechiyutan.
Okay, it's not B'kein Yatain. Regarding one who sprinkles a silo with water, he need not be concerned that perhaps he put wheat there and it was moistened. Regarding one who gathers blades of grass when dew is upon them, in order to moisten wheat with them, it is not B'ki Yatain. But if he intended this, it is included B'ki Yatain. Regarding one who transport wheat to grind and rain fell on it, if he is happy, it is included in the law of B'ki Yatain. Reb Yehuda, come on here. Reb Yehuda says it is impossible not to be happy, rather only if he stood still. If his olives were put on the roof and rain fell on them, he is happy. It is in B'ki Yatain. Reb Yehuda says it is impossible not to be happy, rather only if he blocks the drain pipe or if he rolled the olives about in water.
In other words, Rabbi Yehuda needs him to take a positive action to show that he is that he wants it to be wet. Then it becomes bechiyutan. Remember, bechiyutan requires kavana. You have to want the produce to become wet in order for the produce to become susceptible to tumah.
Okay.
All right, Arachin, Daled Aleph.
The ability to pay depends on the vower, the age category upon the subject of the vow, the Arakin upon the subject of the Eric, and the Eric upon the time of the Eric. The ability to pay depends upon the vower. How so? A poor man who vowed the Eric of a rich man gives the Eric of a poor man, and a rich man who vowed the Eric of a poor man gives the Eric of a rich man. But with sacrificial,
What happens if you have a poor man who says I want to give his Eric, and it turns out that like the guy's is 50 shekels, and the poor man says I don't have 50 shekels. He can pay 1 shekel. 1 shekel is the Eric of a poor man because he's assessed, and they say okay, you can't afford it, then you pay 1.
1 second, okay. But with sacrificial offerings, it is not so. Should one say, I take upon myself to give the offering of this mitzvah? If the mitzvah was poor, he brings the offering of a poor man. If he was rich, he brings the offering of a rich man. Rebbe says, I say that even in the case of Arakin, if it is so. For why is it that a poor man who vowed the Eric of a rich man gives the Eric of a poor man? Because the rich man is not at all obligated. But if the rich man said, I take upon myself to give my Eric, and the poor man overheard him and said, I take upon myself to give what this man said, he gives the Eric of a rich man. If he was poor and became rich. If he was poor and became rich, or if he was rich and became poor, he gives the Eric of a rich man. Rabbi Yehuda says even a poor man who became rich and then poor again gives the Eric of a rich man. But with sacrificial offerings, it's not so. Even if his father died and left him 10,000 zuz, or his ship was at sea and they came with tens of thousands, the temple treasury has no claim on them.
But until it's actually realized, if it's still something that hasn't yet been realized, then he's not considered an usher until he actually becomes wealthy, even though it's in the pipeline. Okay, Gittin. Alad.
Test Aleph.
Daled.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Daled.
I thought you said Aleph. All right. 3 Gittin are void, but if she married, the offspring is legitimate. But if he wrote it with his handwriting and there are no witnesses on it, if there are no witnesses on it, he has no date. If already has no date, if it has a date but it only has 1 witness, these 3 Gittin are void. But if she married, the offspring is legitimate. Reb Elazar says, although there are no witnesses on it, but he gave it to her in the presence of witnesses, it is valid. And one collects from mortgage payments because witnesses sign on a document only for the sake of the general good. If 2 men send 2 identical gittin and they became mixed up, he gives both of them to this one and both to that of them to this one. Therefore, if he lost one of them, the second is void. The five wrote as a group and a get. So and so is divorcing so and so is divorcing so, and the witnesses are below. They're all valid, and it shall be given to each one. If the text was written to each one and the witnesses are below, that which the witnesses read is valid. Okay.
One more.
In the case of two gittin, whose texts are alongside each other, and the two Hebrew witnesses extended from beneath this one to beneath this one, and two Greek witnesses extended from beneath this one and beneath this one.
Well, in other words, right to left and left to right.
Right, and that which the first witnesses read is valid. And if one Hebrew witness and one Greek witness is one Hebrew witness and one Greek witness extend from beneath this one to beneath this one, they are both void.
Okay.
Okay, we're almost finished.